And we're back.
Hey.
Hello, YouTube.
I'm still a little buzzed.
if you watched our last video, we're recording this one directly after that one, and we are still drinking whiskey. So we apologize for anything that we may slip and say during this reaction.
Watch your fucking language.
So
Mike.
check out our old reactions. Today we're doing another Audit the Audit video. We really enjoyed the last one. So today we're doing cop gets kicked off private property after tense dispute. The last one we watched was cop pulls guy over and instantly regrets it. And he sure did.
Yeah, he did.
He sure did.
Mr. Proctor and Mr.
Proctor
Cordova
did a great job. So go back and listen to that video. Watch that video, rather, whatever you want to do here on YouTube. You want to just listen to it, that's fine too. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let us know what you think. And let us know if this is the kind of content that you enjoy. The more you like, the more the algorithm puts this towards the top and lets other people see these kind of videos that normally wouldn't see them. So go ahead and like and subscribe and throw a comment down at the bottom. Without further ado, let's get into this. Again, this is from Audit the Audit. So you can go out and check out their channel on YouTube. They have a lot of good content on here. If you're into police accountability and constitutionality and those kind of videos,
this guy is like bar none.
Oh, he's
like set
really
the
good.
bar.
He's really good. He's really good, and he gives you the case law and precedent and all that stuff.
He should be a freaking attorney. If he isn't,
well, it says you'll see his disclaimer here. It says I'm not an attorney, and don't take this as legal advice.
He could pass the bar, no problem.
I think so too. Right here, my videos should not be construed as legal advice. They are merely a presentation of facts as I understand them. I am not an attorney, and you should seek the services of legal professionals if you believe that you are a victim of police misconduct. Facts presented in my video are not indicative of my personal opinion, and I do not always agree with the outcome, people, judgments, or any interaction. Laws, case law, ordinance, policies, legal doctrine, and all other jurisprudence is subject to the interpretation of the court. The legal topics covered in Audit the Audit are designed to be educational and informative and should not serve as legal advice under any circumstances. The contents of this video is in no way intended to provoke, incite, or shock the viewer. This video was created to educate citizens about constitutionally protected activities, law, civilian rights, and emphasize the importance of constitutional awareness, which is exactly what we're about here on Between the Lines. So, we pair
this should
very
be our
well.
disclaimer.
Can we
email him and ask him
if we can just copy and paste this, because this is generally exactly what we believe. But anyway, we'll continue this.
So the other day, I jumped out of a plane because I was listening to Mike and Dave.
And they told me
to. But anyways.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at what people will do.
Yeah, seriously.
And the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers civil lawsuits, probable cause, and the First Amendment, and is brought to us by Columbus Police Body Cameras channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. In a video posted on November 5th, 2021, the renter of a home in Columbus, Ohio, called 911 to request a police dispatch to her residence due to a dispute with a contractor over a roof repair after a sudden downpour caused damage to the tenant's personal property in the home. An officer from the Columbus Division of Police was dispatched to investigate the situation.
That's an old school car.
Oh yeah.
That's got the
body cam footage.
This is just a disaster.
Okay.
I'll just tell you the story. My roof is supposed to be getting done. It started raining, so my whole house is completely flooded.
Yeah.
Now, these are the people that were supposed to be doing it.
Okay.
And they act like they don't really want to compensate us to fix it or whatever.
That's not.
They're going to put us in a hotel tonight.
I like the
tomorrow,
pose.
Okay.
but it's just
The pose.
But that's a civil issue. There's
Okay,
not enough
well-
police can do about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Nah, you could take a police report, write it down.
I was a
A
contractor.
police report for what?
I'm just trying to keep it honest. I'm upset. You know what I'm saying? They
Okay.
supposed to do the roof. They didn't complete it. They got paid.
But again, that's a.
And then leaked through
Okay,
and
we
up
didn't know
all
all
our...
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's a civil issue. That's something you'd have to sue them for.
But you didn't take a... Okay.
I
You
don't.
don't got to make a report on it at
But
all.
it would have to be a police, like, what kind of report would you expect me to take?
I don't know. We don't know the police work. We're not yet.
See, I'm upset.
I didn't come here to give you an attitude.
I didn't give you
and I don't appreciate it back.
Before I react, I'm just trying to find out what I should do.
I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, shut up. Let me
He's the contractor. You'd have to talk to them. And
I'm talking to him.
Stop hitting me, please.
All right. So again, you would have
Back
to
off
talk
me,
to them,
Karen.
and it sounds like they're trying to put you up in a hotel.
Right.
And then,
A hotel.
Until the owner of the hotel.
I got my wife and my kids in there.
okay.
And they ain't looking happy.
She's
I'm
like,
so sweaty. Look at me, man. I'm
Okay.
upset.
Well, that you'd have to
Walk in there and see that. This
they're getting pissed at him because he can't do
Well, you
anything.
I gave it a chance.
But you'd have to sue them, and then they should be licensed and insured.
The officer informs the tenants that this is a civil matter and that he does not have the authority to do anything about their situation. In the U.S. justice system, civil cases typically involve private disputes between two people, companies, or legal entities after one party causes harm to another, whereas criminal
can you
cases
imagine
are
if
prosecuted
cops
by
were
the
given the
government against
permission
individuals who engage
to,
in
like,
conduct that is
engage in
considered
civil
harmful to
disputes?
society
Oh my
in
God.
general. Police officers are primarily tasked
I don't
with
even want to
handling
think about a
criminal
world
matters,
where that's
although
a thing.
sometimes their investigations can overlap with civil issues, such as during the investigation of car crashes. The two most common types of civil cases are contract disputes and legal causes of actions known as torts, where one party sues another for money damages to compensate for an injury, death, or loss to person or property, often caused by the defendant's careless or negligent conduct.
So here's my
In this
question. These
situation,
little
the tenants could
videos
possibly
he
have a
does
civil cause of
of these interactions, these scenes, so to speak, are these ones he grabs from somewhere, or are these ones that he hires people to sit there and look like
Oh
important?
sure, no, these are stock.
Yeah,
This
that's what I
is
was
stock
wondering.
content, just kind of like
Your
what,
video
what-
jumped, it
what-
looked
I
like
know
again.
I did. This is stock content, just like what we use sometimes.
It's funny to me, like the one we saw the last video. It's like,
Yeah.
it looked like Johnny freaking Knoxville sitting there.
the Costco cop, the Costco Halloween uniform
Did anybody?
that they used as a
Did
police
somebody
officer.
here commit a felony? Boom, 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 boom,
We
boom,
got a
boom.
noise complaint. You ladies aren't making enough noise.
Nice.
Oh, the whiskey's talking.
defendant's careless or negligent conduct. In this situation, the tenants could possibly have a civil cause of action against the contractor or their landlord for a breach of contract, or they might be able to pursue a tort action.
But
against
I'm
either party
angry,
if the
man.
damage was caused by the negligence
I'm
of the
upset.
contractor or one of his employees. However, a police officer would
I
not
like how
make a
Karen-
report on this
I keep calling her
dispute or
Karen.
arrest anyone unless the situation
Heretofore
involved a
known as
violation.
Karen.
Section 2909.06.
Oh, well,
of
we
the
didn't
Ohio
know that.
Revised Code
Well, what
defines
kind of
the
police
offense
report
criminal
would I
damage
file?
or
Well, that's your
injury.
job.
Quote, no person shall cause or create a substantial risk of physical harm to any property of another without the other person's consent, if they act knowingly or even recklessly in some situations. According to Section 2901.22, quote, a person acts knowingly, regardless of purpose, when the person is aware that the person's conduct will probably cause a certain result. And, quote, a person acts recklessly when with heedless indifference to the consequences, the person disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the person's conduct is likely to cause a certain result. Applying these standards, a court would almost certainly conclude that the damage to the tenant's personal property was a civil matter rather than a criminal one, and the officer is correct in asserting that he has no authority to assist the tenants.
The scene, it like strikes me as something out of Jerry Springer for some reason.
I had someone do the roof.
Okay.
So today, while the guy was on the roof, it started pouring down.
Yeah, it was really bad, yeah.
Who's this guy?
Started pouring down,
He's the contractor.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and only that part of the roof wasn't done yet. So it leaked through. Okay, fine. I came over here, they called me, I said, look, let me put you in a hotel tonight for 2 days, tonight and tomorrow, so we can figure out what's going on, and we'll talk to the owner, and we'll get everything taken care of.
So it's a rental property.
Yeah, they're the renters. They're not even the owners.
Yeah.
They're just renting the
Get all your
place.
valuables taken care of.
That sounds reasonable.
But he's out here going off on us,
Yeah.
okay?
I gotcha.
And I have to go to the hotel. I told him I was on my way to the hotel on South High Street to pay for the room because it's in my credit card. They want to see me personally. I can't do it over the phone.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And he's trying to keep me from leaving. So I said, I'll wait for the police to come and explain it to him.
Alright.
Okay?
You'll see why,
Sir, I have no doubt that you were upset. I would be upset.
man.
Huh?
I'm just trying to do it the right way.
I know, and I'm But after talking to him, he said he's already
Talking to him, man. Look at
Can I talk to you about it?
you ain't talking right, man. Listen,
You ain't
How am I
talking
not
right?
talking right? I'm trying to explain
What
to you
kind
he
of
just told
fucking
me.
statement is that? You ain't
So,
talking
He
right?
said he's already contacted.
he ain't
He's
leaving.
trying to talk to you.
He's not
Listen.
leaving.
Yes, he
Got a
is.
gun in that truck under the seat, and it's
Okay.
not registered.
How do you know it's not registered?
'Cause
Oh
I
my
know it for a
gosh.
fact.
It
I
went.
really want
Oh
to-
my
I want to
gosh.
tell the details.
All right, Bob. Look.
The tenant tells the responding officer that the contractor has an unregistered firearm in his vehicle, but does not provide any additional information.
So now what he's trying to do
Is get this dude
he's-
in trouble.
Yeah, that's a serious allegation. So if it, in my opinion, if it turns out that gentleman does not have a gun under his vehicle, then he should be charged with a false report, because that's a serious allegation, saying that somebody's got an unregistered weapon.
But it's
in
just
their car.
it gets me. It's like it goes from something. Well, I wouldn't say simple, but it's
Well, what should have been simple.
benign.
Yeah. It should have been, the officer should have responded and said, sorry, this is a civil dispute. You're going to have to take it up with a lawyer and sue these people. They should have been like, oh, well, I'm sorry that we wasted your time. Have a nice day. And that should have been the end of it.
How the hell does he know if there's a gun in there or not?
He doesn't. There's no way he can know. Unless the guy said, hey, I have an unregistered gun in my car. But who says that?
If I was a contractor, I'd have a gun too.
Yeah.
That was
And I'm not saying that maybe he does have a gun, but how does he know it's unregistered?
exactly. That's the whole point. He's like trying to get this dude in trouble because he's pissed off.
And let me ask you another thing. In what state do you have to register your firearm?
No, you don't.
You-
I guess
you
I guess
shouldn't.
in a manner of speaking, it just gets logged the sale when you purchase it initially.
But I mean, unless the serial numbers are scratched off of it, like, what does he mean by an unregistered weapon? Like,
But they said
there's-
Columbus. Is that Columbus, Ohio?
I'm assuming Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
I would only be able to assume.
And then the only reason why I bring that up because it's not California, because the last one we watched was California. And
Yeah.
California is like
Yeah,
you can only own a gun unless you're God.
yeah.
But-
and even then they'll question it.
But anyways,
Yeah. So no, I just saying, like, what does he mean by it? And it's not registered? Like,
you know,
maybe he means he doesn't have a concealed carry permit.
it's kind of an off-subject comment, but the guy that does the whole audit, it would be funny to me if he just let loose on one of these episodes and like broke character and was just like, "What the hell
What
is
the
this?"
hell are you talking about? Yeah,
It's just
that
like,
would be funny.
Because you got to imagine, like, he has to go through and preview. Like, he has to review this stuff.
Sure.
And then look at each situation, snip it, and then compare it against the case law. But at some point, when you first watch it, you got to be like, what the hell is
I would
going
love to hear what his commentary is
Exactly.
behind the camera.
Exactly.
That would be hilarious.
Exactly.
That would be
Anyways, keep
hilarious.
going.
Yeah.
Or explain how he knows it is unregistered. Under the automobile exception to the Fourth Amendment's requirement that officers obtain search warrants, which was first established by the Supreme Court in the 1925 case of Carroll versus United States, police officers are authorized to search a vehicle if they have probable cause to believe that it contains contraband. As the Supreme Court explained in the 1983 case of Illinois versus Gates, quote, probable cause is a fluid concept, turning on the assessment of probabilities in particular factual contexts, not readily or even usefully reduced to a neat set of legal rules. And although in some situations an accusation alone can serve as sufficient probable cause to search a vehicle, now quoting again, informants' tips doubtless come in many shapes and sizes from many different types of persons. An informant's veracity, reliability, and basis of knowledge are all highly relevant in determining the value of his report. And as the Supreme Court held in the 1972 case of Adams versus Williams, quote, informants' tips, like all other clues and evidence coming to a policeman on the scene, may vary greatly in their value and reliability.
That's a
One
good point, because
simple
that
rule
has
will not
absolutely
cover
no
every
value to it at all, what this
Some
guy's
tips,
saying.
Is this
completely
this is
lacking
federal
in
law,
indicia
right?
of
Yeah.
reliability, would either warrant no police response or require further investigation before a forcible stop of a suspect would be authorized. Given the fact that the tenant made an unsubstantiated accusation against an individual with whom he
Love
already
that
had a
Costco
professional
police badge.
relationship and could not provide any
Police.
additional information.
It's like I saw somebody yesterday with a T-shirt that said college
Did not contain
on it.
sufficient indicia of reliability to provide the officer with probable cause to search the vehicle for the alleged illegal firearm.
I ain't
So-
never calling the police again.
I'm trying to explain to you what
You ain't
happened.
got slang. Get the out of here, sucker.
All right, ma'am.
sucker. He just called him a sucker.
Get the out my land.
What is this, the 70s?
I never call you again. You're
I'll never call you again. Like, he made a call to the police department and requested, what's the officer's name?
But
I don't
he's
remember.
He's talking to the owner of the house, and his insurance is going to pay for the damage inside.
He's going to end up in handcuffs.
I know, and he's already
He's
talked
like
to
tanked
the owner
already
of
or
the
something. He's got to be
house.
drunk or on
No,
something.
he said he did.
Nah, you believe everything somebody.
But the owner's the one who contacted him for the
No,
roof.
he is the contractor.
But the owner contacted him, right? Did you guys choose him, or did the owner choose him?
Owner.
Exactly. So he's already been in contact with the owner, and he has.
Don't let him pull off. We might not never see them again. We don't know what the deal is.
But that's your owner is the one who contracted him.
You don't
So
have the
you
right
can
to
even talk
detain
to your
him.
owner,
No.
And your owner should have to cover the damage.
This is what
inside.
courts are
But
for.
he has insurance.
And remember, I said that. I'm see, man. I ain't got no
Why are
point.
you acting like this? I didn't. Because this
Do
is
this
a.
shit right.
He's going to get himself into bigger trouble because
Exactly.
of his stupid.
Unhappy with the situation, the tenant begins using profanity, verbally insulting the officer and instructing him to leave his property. Generally, the First Amendment prohibits the government from punishing citizens for their speech.
Meanwhile,
As it
unless
should.
falls into
Meanwhile, the
specific
contractor is
category
not
of
even
so-called
Yeah.
in the
unprotected
video
speech.
anymore.
The Supreme Court held in the 1942 case of Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire that, quote, there are certain well-defined and narrowly limited classes of speech, the prevention and punishment of which have never been thought to raise any constitutional problem. These include the lewd and obscene, the profane, the libelous, and the insulting or fighting words, those which by their very utterance inflict injury or tend to incite an immediate breach of the peace. When it comes to the so-called fighting words exception, which can include verbal insults, courts have typically held that the standard for fighting words
Who's
against
that, Justin
police officers
Bieber?
is higher than for
I
an
love the
average
stock
citizen.
content.
For instance, in the 1987 case of City of Houston versus Hill, the Supreme
on,
Court
man.
explained that, quote, the First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal
a
criticism and
cracker.
challenge directed at police officers. Speech is often provocative and challenging, but it is nevertheless protected against censorship or punishment, unless shown likely to produce a clear and present danger of a serious substantive evil that rises far above public inconvenience, annoyance, or unrest.
I love
Still,
that.
in Ohio, fighting words can be punished as disorderly conduct under Section
Yeah, it is Ohio.
2917.11 of the Ohio Revised Code, which states that, quote, no person shall recklessly cause inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm by insulting, taunting, or challenging another, under circumstances in which that conduct is likely to provoke a violent response. And courts have held that this law can apply to speech directed at a police officer. For example,
That's the guy
in
from Up.
I was just gonna
2001
say.
City of Kent versus Dawson, the 11th District Court
Let
of
their
Appeals of
grandpa
Ohio
on that
rejected
bench.
an argument that the language at issue did not rise to the level of fighting words because the offended party was a police officer, finding that, quote, where the offended party is a police officer, a distinction lies in whether the language was non-personal and not directed to the particular officer, and language which was intentionally directed to
It was
the
directed
particular
towards him.
officer.
Yeah.
Therefore,
What
it
they're
is
saying
possible
is
a court
that
could conclude
officers, if you direct disparaging language towards an officer, you get more leeway because they're a public official. So if you were to say "fuck the police" to a police officer, those aren't fighting words because you're not insulting the individual police officer.
Gotcha.
You're talking about police in general. So if you're getting pulled over, you can scream "fuck the police" at a police officer, and they're not considered fighting words because it's not directed at the individual police officer. Now, if you were to call a black police officer the N-word,
Yeah.
that could be considered fighting words because you're directing that insult directly at that person
Exactly.
to incite a certain response. The legal system is so complicated,
Yeah.
so and nuanced, but that's why
The
I love it
language
so
the
much.
tenant directed at the officer constituted fighting words under some circumstances. However, because the Ohio Supreme Court held in the 1974 case of City of Cincinnati versus Carlin that fighting words can only be criminally punished if they're used in a public place, a court would likely determine that the tenant could not be charged with a crime for his speech.
That's why we don't call y'all. That's why we don't trust y'all. That's why we don't like y'all. I can get all the way in your face. You hear me? I know these rules.
He's drunk or something.
He has to be on something.
Okay. Well, you have a good day.
Love the
Alright.
cop.
You have a great day.
After the tenant expressed his disapproval of the officer's refusal to get involved in the matter, the officer left the scene without further incident. There are no additional
If she
details
wasn't
available
there
about the names
holding
of
him
the
Well, that
back-
would have been a
involved
completely
or whether
different
He would have been in.
interaction.
He would have been in the
Action
back of a
following
paddy
this
wagon.
interaction.
Absolutely.
Overall, the unnamed tenants get a C-
love-
for maintaining a rude and hostile demeanor throughout the interaction, refusing to consider
surprised they
the
didn't get
information
less than
being
that.
conveyed
They
to
should
them
have
by the
gotten less than
officers,
that, in
and
my
for
opinion.
verbally berating both the officer and the contractor. It is
I love that
unrealistic to
scene right
expect
there.
every every citizen to possess.
That's
some
like
degree of
American
legal
Gothic,
knowledge.
but like
It is difficult
the
to fault
2020
tenants for
version.
calling the police, considering that their property was destroyed and they felt as though they were not being properly compensated. The tenants intended to call the
That's
police
like
to
the
act as a
universal
civil
symbol for
mediator
white
and
trash.
establish an official record of what
But
had
it's funny.
happened
It's
to them.
like
And although
when
they failed to
Proctor did it in
understand
the last
distinction
video.
between civil and
It was just
criminal
like-
Yeah, he was
they
like-
still managed to achieve what they intended to do when they initially called. Now there exists
should have blown it in
objective and
the officer's
undisputable body
face,
camera
that's what I'm
footage
saying.
that clearly documented their claims, which the tenants can submit a public records request to obtain and use to build a case. Whether or not introducing this footage into a case would be helpful is debatable, but it exists nonetheless. All that said, calling an officer to the scene of a civil dispute is probably one of the most ineffective ways of documenting anything, and it goes without saying that it is a waste of time and resources for all parties involved. While I do empathize with the emotional toll that the tenants were processing, I would caution anyone in a similar position to extensively document the scene themselves rather than relying on a member of law enforcement. This interaction highlights the importance of having a basic level understanding of the legal system, even outside the context of a police
I mean,
encounter.
heck, in
The
that kind of
responding
situation,
officer gets an
if they have
A+
renter's
for
insurance,
actively working
couldn't they
to de-escalate
technically
the
call their
situation,
insurance
making a
agency
and
legitimate
have them
effort
do
to
an
explain
adjust
the
or an
proper course of
assessment?
action to the tenants, and for remaining
there's
within
so
the
many
bounds of
different
authority
ways.
throughout the interaction.
Like, they
At
could've-
no point during the encounter did the officer
Because I think it's a
overstep his
requirement.
authority or
Like
do
all
anything
renters
to
have to have
further
renter's
provoke the
insurance,
tenants.
so you have
Yeah.
to.
The officer stayed on the scene, despite being well within his authority to leave at any time, likely to ensure that the situation did not evolve into anything criminal. The Columbus officer calmly explained why he couldn't help the tenants, did so in a respectable manner, and left the scene peacefully. Anything beyond that may have been worthy of criticism, but this officer handled this situation as reasonably as could be expected.
He was spot on.
I commend the Columbus officer for remaining calm and collected.
Yeah,
and
because there's a
navigating
lot of
this
cops. I'm just going to stop it there because you pretty much get the
Well,
gist
let's
at this
let's
point.
let's
but-
do this. If you'd watched the last video and you
Yeah.
watched Mr. Cordova and his fishing attempts,
Yeah.
and then you put him into, let's say, the situation that I didn't get the officer's name in this one.
Yeah,
but,
I didn't get it either.
But let's imagine if Officer Cordova was the one responding to the situation.
Oh yeah, it would have been
Officer
completely
Cordova would have had.
would have had that guy in handcuffs
like-
just for the threat.
Yep.
Just for the threat. Just for the threat in and of itself, it would have been ridiculously easy.
And it's interesting. What's cool about it is that you can look at those two comparatively and
Yeah.
see where the pros and cons are and how they're interacting with the public in relation to what laws there exist in both the municipality in
Yeah.
question and both federally speaking.
Exactly. I really like the way. Again, I really like the way that Audit the Audit, breaks down case law, throws in Supreme Court precedent and federal court precedent and even state court precedent, and he breaks it down for the area that they're in too, because obviously law in California is going to vary vastly from law in Ohio and so on and so forth. So I encourage anyone that is into, constitutionality and police interactions and things like that, definitely check out Audit the Audit. They're definitely, a good channel for that kind of stuff.
You know, the biggest problem in all of this is that my glass is empty
Yeah,
right now.
that's the
biggest
shame.
problem.
That's a shame. That is an absolute travesty.
But
We'll have to fill it up off camera. So until next time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below. Let us know what you think of this interaction and who was in the right, who was in the wrong. Was the officer within his right to not do anything for them? Was the tenant in the right to be that upset? So on and so forth. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Bye.
Bye.